and welcome back to Aston Martin and F1 Manager 2022. It wasn't a great outing last time, but that one's on me. That was more trial and error to see how that kind of thing works out, and the answer is it doesn't, because tyres aren't accurate in the game yet still. So, and if they do fix that relatively soon, because I'm recording ahead, those fixes won't have been ready. Obviously, I am not psychic. I don't know whether or not they are going to fix them in an upcoming patch or not, but I have to imagine that's going to be top of their priority list, along with maybe safety cars and general mechanical retirements. But they're probably the big three things that they'll be working on first and foremost to get in the game / fixing the game. I'm not fully certain they intended mechanical retirements to be in the game, but if they are, it's clearly not working. Second thing, of course, is to boost the safety car call out for incidents, and the third thing is to make sure fresh tyres are more beneficial than they are currently. I do think they've got the kind of overall split right. I think they've got the overall wear right in terms of once that initial fresh tyre boost has passed by, once you've got onto the sort of the regular amount of tyre. I think they've got the tyre wear right in that regard. They just haven't got the benefits of the brand new fresh tyre in the game yet, which we found to our detriment last time. I do wonder if it's meant to be a thing in the game, because obviously when we made that strategy change last time out, it did say that strategy would be 17 seconds faster than the one we're on. But then that was based on pushing the tyres, so I don't know. Anyway, Hungary today. You can see on the right hand side there, it's that side. Here, suspension is complete, so we will obviously rush some manufacturers on that to make sure we have those on the car. And that really is the first major upgrade in a very long while for this car. Fingers crossed it actually makes a difference. So it costs 200 grand to emergency manufacture one of these. They cost 50 grand as a standard, so it's 250 grand a pop. And we'll just manufacture one as standard to make sure we have the fourth. But you can see the comparison on the right hand side between the two pieces. It's 0.1 on the top speed, it's 0.8 on the DRS, 0.08 on the DRS, along with reasonable improvements in the dirty air cornering, particularly high speed cornering, and massive improvements on brake cooling, 4 full %. Sadly, it's not great improvements in actual just straight up cornering, but hopefully it brings us up. So before recording, I ummed and ahed about the benefits of creating a front wing or focusing on next year's car, because obviously we've got no wind tunnel hours remaining. I wasn't fully certain if it was going to be worth developing a part without any wind tunnel hours, and it does seem to be still vaguely worth it, to the point where it might at least bring our car in line with other vehicles. We're doing it on rushed as well, just so we can get it in time for Spa, which is after the break. At the very least, I think it will be done for Zandvoort. I haven't checked the calendar yet, but realistically, I think once this front wing is in, and once this underfloor is in particular, I don't know how much more benefit there is going to be developing parts for this car. I don't know what happens at the season change, whether or not things revert or not, or if it starts next season with the best parts that you had from last season or not. I'm not sure how the end of season works yet, so I do not know if it's going to be worth developing new parts once these ones come in, or if it's more worth researching from that point onwards, because there are still wind tunnel periods in that block that we could utilize. So I don't know how it works. We'll find out.
The Hungaroring is abuzz with excitement as Formula One returns to Hungary for another round. We first came here in 1986 after construction on this purpose-built motorsport facility was completed. The Hungaroring is one challenging succession of corners and turns. With few straights, it's affectionately known as the go-kart circuit. Drivers will have to find a proper rhythm to make the most of the layout, and for cars, low-speed downforce will be paramount. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Formula One.
As always, I'll see you for qualifying. If you want to join me for the Twitch sessions, the link is down below. But by the time this video goes live, it's going to be a little while until I'm going to be back live on Twitch. I've just seen the heavy rain race. That could be fun. Another curious qualifying session. We are apparently alternating with the Williamses, but for the most part, we did run better than them. And for the majority of the session, we're running better than some of the cars that are now by the end ahead of us. It's worth noting in practice 3 that we were running long, soft sessions. So by the time the fuel wore off to be of a benefit, the tyres had worn down to then counterbalance that. So hard to know exactly what our true pace is, and also we did use the dud engines for practice again. This time I'll remember to put the good ones back in for practice. But both drivers will get 15 out of 15, and you can see that Pierre's best practice lap time was a 1:19.5, which was very much in the mix of those. Seb's struggling a little bit more. Guess who then didn't put the engine in? I forget which page that comes in. It's not this page. Oh well. Well, they were doing that with those engines, so... Oh, of course. As Pierre starts his lap, Mick Schumacher has come out of the pits to be a roadblock at some point during the lap. Vettel has Stroll for company behind him, who is annoyingly close. Probably, hopefully, won't affect the actual lap in terms of his proximity. Just trying to see where... You just saw Mick at the front there. Trying to see where Gasly's going to catch Mick, because it could be awkwardly at this chicane. Similarly, if he catches him in the wrong place in these S's, it's going to hold him up. If he catches him on this straight, it's not too bad, which it does look like he has. Perfect. Perfect place to catch Mick. In fact, I'll be honest, that outlap didn't look that slow. I will track somebody's outlap just to see exactly how long it takes to do an outlap. But Seb isn't even going to catch Mick, I don't think, by the end of the lap. He isn't, no. And actually, simultaneously, Pierre is in a nice spot for Mick to get back past him as well. So it's worked out quite nicely for both of them. It's a 117.6 from Gasly. It's worse from Vettel, but better from Stroll, annoyingly. So, well, I mean, the Williams is... Latifi's just coming back into the pits. Whether he'll get back out again, I'm not fully certain. Probably has enough time, technically. But the first drivers for the second runs will be coming out in about 20 seconds time or so. Albon and Latifi have gone faster than us right now, but they've done their laps on a faster track than we did. We just got banker laps in just in case there were incidents. I'm going to send Vettel out first this time and try and send Pierre as late as possible. Trying to keep an eye on faster vehicles. There's a Ferrari. Get Gasly out behind the Ferrari if we can. Vettel out behind the Ferrari. Or indeed, the Alpine. Now, he might accidentally... This might be the last of the faster cars. That Ferrari is. So Gasly out behind the Ferrari would be nice. He's out behind an AlphaTauri, who are ahead of us as well, in the pit lane order. But most importantly, has the Williamses behind. They did send them back out again. And with 150 or so on the clock, I feel like that's kind of the sweet spot. I was sort of tracking outlaps as being about 140-ish. So sending them out of the very back would have cut that incredibly fine, I think. And as it is, I'm not fully certain the Hasses will actually get across the line in time. Also, oddly, the first two drivers out have just bolted. We'll go on board with Pierre, who does seem to be our better prospect for getting through these days. But both Hasses on 0.2 faster than Gasly right now, and I'm not fully certain they'll cross the line in time. They probably will. They'll probably have timed it just about right, but Magnussen did fail to cross the line in... I forget where. The one that we failed to cross the line in time, because we were bamboozled by that. Canada? 30 seconds to go. They might be alright. They might be okay. But Gasly's across the line now. Vettel's ahead of him. Let's not forget, let's just have a quick nosy at his sector times, of course, as well. See if he's going faster. The Red Bulls behind Vettel seemingly have given him enough space that they're not going to... Yeah, the Pascal line with 10 seconds to spare, they were sort of okay. It did seem to vary between about 130-ish and 140, 50, depending on traffic and pace of the car outright to begin with. Vettel's on the faster first sector, Gasly's on the faster first sector. Turn 5 for Gasly now into the chicane at the top here. This is an absolute nightmare on the regular F1 22 game. Can never get that one right. Stroll, I don't think Stroll's massively improved. Danny Rick's improved. Stroll's only 3.5 tenths faster than Gasly right now. Depending on what the differential track-wise is between when we did our first runs and now, I don't know how much we're going to gain. Ricciardo out-qualifies Norris in this first session. Not by much, but Ricciardo's found pace. Vettel crosses the line. Oh, did he get hindered? No, he's just done a terrible lap for whatever reason. But Gasly's better in the first two sectors than he was last time. And he's across the line. 16th. He's gone faster than Albon barely, so Albon will probably get past him again. By a thousandth. Albon improved by a thousandth and then got past Gasly again. Yeah, I think I've done them in with these bad engines again. That's on me. Stroll barely survived as well. I think if I put the good engines in, they would have been fine. Max and Leclerc are going to be at the back of the pack as well. It's shades of Spa in real life right now.
Welcome to race day. And before we get down to it, last minute checks are being made.
And the weather is sunny here today, apart from a few clouds. Let's hope they remain scattered on the horizon.
Well, as we can see, the crowd here at the Hungaro Ring are ready and waiting. So let's get this show underway.
And I forgot about the rain. This could work in our favour, actually, because no DRS. So let's see what final qualifying ended up being. Leclerc and Max the front two, so it'll be Carlos Sainz leading the way, and we will technically start 15-16. We'll start 15-16 behind Albon and Mick. Probably clear them relatively easy. Danny Rick actually ended up not doing too well after all that. The good news is the McLarens and the AlphaTauris effectively directly ahead of us along with Mick. So if we get a good start and get past this batch, we're in a good space to capitalize on any incidents. Now, strategy-wise, we need to have a look at this rain because we were thinking medium hard for the actual race was going to be sensible, but it looks like the rain comes relatively early on. Where is the soft pit stop as standard? So there's a little bit of rain here. Oh, see, because that's softs. Bear in mind there's going to be a little bit of pushing on the softs. It's kind of going to be an awkward spot. I think we're going to run with it though. We'll run with it on both drivers just because it doesn't really matter when they pit. We'll try and get the benefit of the early pit stop and we will just pit straight away as soon as the rain comes this time. Sorry, Seb. Still sorry about that one. And hilariously, because we can still change the engine back again, we will do it. Because it's raining, I'm not going to put actually the highest power engine on for Seb, but we will put the full ERS on because that's going to matter quite a lot, I feel. I mean, I'm kind of glad this is a thing because I keep forgetting to do it right. I mean, Gasly's got basically two identical engines, so it doesn't really matter. Right, so race components in. I'd rather just be able to push on fuel rather than have less fuel, I think. Push off the line, 16th, 17th is the start, as we thought. It's going to be a case of, this is the strategy, there is rain, where does the rain end? Because it looks like it actually weirdly ends where these hards come back in again, which may not be the most beneficial spot. I'm also intrigued to see what it does to the rival pit stops as well, because the AI isn't great at altering their plans. So I'm wondering if medium hard runners will pit for the wet tyres, pit back onto the medium, and then pit for the hards. The ones that are soft to begin with might get away with it. Obviously this one here, that's two-stop anyway, will still be two-stop, I imagine, plus the wets. We're about to find out.
I hope I'm not tempting fate here, but there are quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. There we have Pierre Gasly. They'll be starting the race from the bottom half of the grid, so there's a fair bit of ground to make up. And for the second driver, it's Sebastian Vettel. With their starting position in the back 10, they'll have their work cut out for them. The teams are ready to go.
Right, it's race day.
This is it, the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
Most cars are on softs, I see, but that's not a huge surprise because two of the strategies came with that as the starting tyre. Latifi is... Oh, Seb, what have you done there? It looks like the cars on the right-hand side had a much better drive off the line, actually. Left as we're looking at it. Vettel's lost out, but Gasly's done okay. Gasly got Albon.
And there's an overtake from Williams.
Vettel's retaken Verstappen.
That's it.
As we are watching Vettel here, Vettel might have the drive on the Williams up the hill here, as he kind of has to slow down for the other Williams in the process. And now goes on the inside. Verstappen, who did crash in practice, along with having a regular penalty. Vettel's actually just taken both Williamses in that section. Vettel might actually be struggling here. I don't know. We might watch that replay.
Let's see what happened there.
Just because we didn't really get a good look at it. So Vettel gets Latifi on the inside of 5, if my turns are correct, and then gets Albon on 6 and 7 through the chicane. That was magical from Sebastian Vettel.
Back in the garage, the team absolutely loved it.
I loved it. I'll come in here and we'll just pay attention to what happens with Verstappen and Leclerc. But Gasly now, we can give a little bit of love to because he's on the back of Daniel Ricciardo. As the train slows down once more, Mick's got Daniel Ricciardo, I now realise. And Norris is up to 9th. He might have started 9th, actually. He would have started 9th or 10th, I'm not fully certain, just because obviously the two penalties to Verstappen and Leclerc. Danny Rick would have started 13th from those. So he's actually down 2 places because of Gasly now.
Doing what you're doing.
But we can push hard on these softs for the time being. We will have to lay off them just as we wait for the rain to come. But we can push on the first couple of laps. Didn't really see that overtake from Gasly, if I'm completely honest.
Look at this.
Just on the main straight there. I knew he got the job done by the end of turn 1. Actually, Vettel's on the outside here, but doesn't really have the line to do anything with it. Took the inside on the out of turn 1, so actually, will Vettel have a run into turn 2? I don't know. It's weird that there's a kink between turn 1 and turn 2. That doesn't count as a corner in Hungary, but definitely would count as a corner in other tracks, looking at you, Imola and Jeddah. But Vettel's now on the back of his former teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and Gasly is looking at Vettel's protege, Mick Schumacher. And down into the chicane in 6 and 7, Mick weaving a little bit there. Not sure that's entirely legal. Pierre having another little nosy, but not really taking anything with it. Vettel has taken Ricciardo behind. We may actually have to watch that. And the Aston Martin is now up to 14-15. Pierre taking an unconventional attack on Mick there. Outbreaking him into the final sector. 12, 13, 14, I want to say. 12, though. Oh, just caught the replay for Vettel and Ricciardo just because I wanted to watch that Gasly overtake at the same time. So it looked like Seb got most of the job done in the chicane, but then actually got the job done in the S's around turn 10 and then 11. I did check the corner numbers before this one. But some good moves in these first corners, first laps. Looking a hell of a lot more competitive, as Gasly does still have Mick 4 company.
DRS will be active.
And DRS will be active as we run out of ERS in the process. We'll turn that off now as Gasly's got the run on Stroll, the man he replaced, and he's up to 12th before he even gets to turn 1. And that was without DRS. He just had the drive. Vettel's taken Schumacher in the background as well. Good lord, there's overtakes happening everywhere for Aston Martin. It's amazing what one suspension does. Vettel and Leclerc still haven't cleared the Williamses. They've got Latifi, because, of course. And now Vettel's looking at the back of Stroll. What a remarkable start. Now the issue now is, of course, DRS. It makes this overtake strategy a little bit less good. Words are hard. Now we have burnt these tyres a little bit harder, so I kind of just want to lay off things. Fuel-wise, we might be alright just because of the rain. But we need to make sure we get to... Oh, God. Pierre, gave me a heart attack there. Pierre doing to Tsunoda kind of similar things to what Vettel did to Ricciardo a lap earlier. And I think he's actually got him. He has indeed. We'll watch that one again because he only really saw it on board. On the outboard, it is soft versus medium, which is probably why Vettel's struggling a little bit more with Stroll behind, because it is soft and soft. But it's lovely work from Pierre. Beautiful overtake points for them as well, of course, come the end of the race.
That was a big moment.
And remarkably, with all these highlights I'm watching, I am remembering to put the camera back on every time. Now, before we go too much further, we do need to pay attention to when this weather comes in. It looks like it's going to be lap 12. And the original strategy to come in is lap 20. So, oh, lap 12 is here. We might be all right to push, you know. I'm going to bring them back a touch just so we don't lose the tyres even by then. The fuel's getting a bit marginal as well with 3 laps down. You don't really want to go beyond, say, 5. Problem now is, of course, this is now a DRS train because DRS is active. And it starts with Magnussen is 7th. I didn't really check the full... I mean, I did check the qualifying results this time round. Well, I didn't really clock who was up here. But it's Magnussen from Zhou from Norris from Ocon in this train. Alonso is just outside Hamilton's DRS. I mean, I didn't even... Why did I calculate that? There's literally something that works it out for me. But Magnussen is not part of that front 6, so Gasly fighting for points. For certain. Vettel in 14th. If we get the call for rain, right? If the rain comes at a point when we can dive into the pits quite early on, that would be great because I think the rain's going to come relatively hard and fast. The fuel is coming back to us a little bit. And in the rain, with the DRS off, we could probably harvest a little bit more as well, DRS-wise. Both drivers have DRS, but there's not really a lot they can do with it now. Verstappen and Leclerc did get past Albon eventually. It's kind of a case of, do we want to push either one of these drivers past the car that's directly ahead of them just yet? Constantly need to check this rain because still says lap 12. Our better weather forecast still isn't active yet. We're still only on 60% accuracy and we did get bamboozled last time. I get the sense this is going to be... This might be an inters to wet situation, actually. Because it looks like there might be a few laps of just inters. It might be sensible just to go straight on wets here. Because we saw last time the wets weren't really slower than the inters. And it definitely will become wet weather. And we could benefit from that if they go inters then wets, everyone else.
Rain's still coming.
Oh God, is it coming now? Or are we just telling our drivers that it's still coming? Yeah, that weather forecast has changed, it seems. Because it says sunny this period. Light rain in 9 minutes. I'm not going to lie, though. That looked like rain on the camera. I feel like maybe by lap 8, we tell our drivers to push the tyres again. The forecast has changed slightly, but I think we go straight to wets. I think we go straight to wets rather than just deal with a tiny bit of inters. I think we just go straight to wets. But I think we just allow a couple of laps like this, and then we maybe push the drivers a little bit more. We can maybe tell them to harvest a little bit whilst pushing for a lap or two to try and counterbalance. In fact, Vettel's doing a little bit better on saving apparently, but they're on the same amount of fuel load. In fact, Vettel I might need to push now anyway because he's got Verstappen for company. They're finally working their way through, and actually Verstappen is through, which I can't complain about. it's Verstappen. In fact, I'm actually going to tell Seb to push now
Red Bull gained a place.
whilst harvesting, because that Red Bull is going to be so much faster than Stroll. We'll take this opportunity to charge with Vettel briefly through this period. Now it's not DRS, we just go back to neutral again. Just get that fractional extra charge on this lap whilst Verstappen's ahead of us, because hopefully when Verstappen takes Stroll, he'll push Stroll into a position where he might be vulnerable and Vettel can take him as well. But I am relying on these guys doing 2 pit stops in the rain, because it does look like it's going to be a 2-stage rain event. And I know it's kind of abusing the AI a little bit, but the AI aren't that smart yet. It's a good race for Perez and Sainz though, because they're well clear of Russell. I was kind of hoping Seb would be a little bit closer to Stroll at this point when Verstappen's taken him. Somehow, actually, whilst Seb's been pushing fully on these tyres, he's still on the same tyre wear as Gasly, who wasn't pushing as hard. Yeah, unfortunately, Verstappen didn't actually compromise Stroll in an awkward place. Right, now attack with Gasly as well. Just realised I clicked on Stroll out of habit there. Although, ooh, looked like Vettel nearly had the run on Stroll, and the rain is already here.
We are expecting rain pretty soon.
Why is the rain already here?
Small spring.
I mean, this track is already heading towards intermediates. The good news is we are a little bit off the front. So Sainz and Perez stayed out. Russell stayed out at 0.85. Alonso has stayed out. Magnussen's pitted. Oh, there's a slight bump here now. We were bamboozled last time by the graph. I'm going for it. Like I say, Magnussen's going for it now. It is already intermediate weather. I don't know if I can... It's saying 100% rain now. It's saying 100% rain on this section. It's light rainfall, but it's saying 100%. We are going to go on... I don't think it's going to last that long, so we're going to go on wets straight away. Rather than mess around with 2 pit stops, we're just going to go straight on wets with both drivers. This will be double stacking, but we'll benefit in the long run. It's a huge gamble to do it now, but Magnussen's pitting.
Box.
Verstappen's pitting. In fact, the AlphaTauris are double stacked as well. It's getting damp. It's staying damp. We're not even looking at our own driver. Gasly's already out of the pit stops on wets. I suspect the others have all gone into inters. Magnussen's still in the pits. Magnussen took forever to get changed. What's happened with Gasly? Gasly's tyres have changed, but he hasn't pitted. Just to make sure he does actually pit onto a set of
Box.
I feel like Gasly's been compromised, but at the same time, it means we haven't double stacked. Vettel also cleared Stroll, of course, because he double stacked. Because they double stacked, and now we're on the back of a Williams. We're being somewhat trapped by a Williams here because 2 drivers are trying to overtake him at the same time, and it's not working out because he's just driving in the middle of the track. In fact, Vettel's positioned him nicely on the inside of Tsunoda here so he can get him.
Yeah, in the box.
Copy.
Can Vettel get? Can Latifi? Nicholas? This isn't working out. I mean, Nicholas is having a mare here because he's just stopped in the racing line, and Vettel's actually compromised him there. Yeah, we don't go aggressive on these tyres, but we just want to make sure we got him. That was weird. I don't know if Gasly had the benefit of wet tyres on that lap, or if he was still running around on softs, technically. Verstappen went straight on wets, actually, funny enough, and Bottas went straight on wets. So a few people didn't actually go onto intermediates first. I mean, yeah, of course they're going to be getting a little bit warm just because you're on wets in intermediate conditions. We'll have a look at the forecast again. That's not really updated, which is concerning. It does imply that it might dry out again. The Vettel is behind Leclerc. Leclerc is on the back of Gasly, no DRS right now, so I'll be honest, Gasly, you might as well use this opportunity to harvest.
Currently P12.
Oh, and Ferrari just gained a place.
Yeah, I know. I don't really want you to get past here, Yuki. Perez stayed out for way too long. Perez stayed out for 2 laps, I think. But anyone in intermediates is likely going to have to pit again, as this track is coming towards the wet runners already, well ahead of schedule. Our forecast was miles off, and still is miles off. We'll tell Seb to stop harvesting because Yuki's attacking him, but Gasly can sort of get away with it right now because there's no real point. We'll pop the gaps back on. Verstappen came out in 7th. Verstappen's 6th. I mean, Verstappen's almost pulling a spar here. We're still in a good spot though, because if intermediate runners do then pit for wets, we're okay.
You can stop lift and coast.
I kind of just want Vettel to try and pull a gap out on Yuki. We can bring Pierre down a smidge, I think,
Copy.
whilst he's harvesting. I just want Vettel to get a little bit of a gap on Tsunoda so then he can start harvesting himself. Because I want to have a full harvested ERS by the time this dries out. I don't know when this is going to dry out. Is my forecast updated yet? Oh, it has. Okay, so it's peaking now. And it's going to peak even harder. This is going to be like a really torrential track at some point. So I don't really know what point to... I guess we just wait for it to get back under 1mm. Vettel's now in Gasly's, but he can come off that now
Get back up.
and start harvesting. Oh, you're already on. So Leclerc's on the back of Norris. Tsunoda's 2.5 seconds behind.
So Sebastian, we are all okay on fuel, all okay on fuel.
We're not all okay on fuel, Sebastian, but I feel like we can push the tyres. I don't really know when. I mean, this is saying around lap 36 is the actual. I mean, they're going to be about 50% by the time that happens, so I don't really want to push them too hard because that graph's done on just standard. Yeah, we know, Michelle. That's fine. It's gone over 4 millimeters now, so this is fully wet. So the intermediate runners might now be pitting for full wets. So Noda's pitting for full wets. I mean, look at this wet track. This looks glorious. And actually, because they're on intermediates, Seb's on full wets. Sorry, this is Gasly. Still having to pull out even further just to try and get an angle here. Switches sides. These two intermediate runners are kind of getting in Gasly's way.
Energy's good.
Copy.
And he's still harvesting at this point. Let's not forget Gasly having to take avoiding action to stop driving into the back of Norris. Vettel's on the inside. Vettel's got past him. Vettel's not even on... Vettel's on harvest. Pierre has got pinched. But Vettel's cleared Norris easily and into the points. Pierre is lining up Norris.
Aston Martin with a great play.
Unfortunately, some of the people at the front are actually still more than a pit stop out of the way. I don't really know how that happened. Largely, I think it was largely the Williams blockage that we had originally.
Looks like Aston Martin.
Vettel's now taken Leclerc. Vettel's got less tyres than Gasly. That's because he came in first, weirdly. Gasly's got Norris. So 5 people now pitting off the intermediates. I'm intrigued to see how it goes the other way as well, whether or not they'll pit straight from wets to intermediates or wets to softs, normal tyres. Yeah, look how cautious they're going to have to be. This rainfall's really come down. It's nearly 6 millimeters now. So the 5 people in the pits will not come out in time. Sebastian is just pausing to let the Mercedes come out, I think, which actually kind of fair enough. They're going to be faster. But 7th and 8th for our drivers because we only made the 1. Latifi at the back, hilariously, despite blocking his trying to get into the pits in the first place, whichever one it was, went on to intermediates. And Seb is now fully charged as well. We've got plenty of fuel. Right, how far behind is Alonso and Zhou? Not massively. So whilst we've only done the 1 pit stop, all that's done is bring us into range. Gasly really got pinched in that situation. He's ended up 3 seconds behind here. I simultaneously also don't want to push him on these tyres because it does increase the risk of an incident. Because obviously it increases braking force and in wet weather. I'd rather push him on the fuel at this point.
Get the tyres down now.
I'm happy for them to just go vaguely aggressive. Just to try and build up a little bit. We can sort of make the most of this. If we're just... I mean, Vettel, fingers crossed, is a relatively good wet weather merchant. Stroll's down to 17th. Ocon's 18th. Trying to look at our rivals right now. Ricciardo and Norris are 12th and 16th. The AlphaTauris are 14th and 17th. And the Hasses are 11th and 19th right now. Magnussen might get a point, but depending on how this race pans out. But right now, we're 7th and 8th. I'm fascinated to know how this bit's going to go. If this bit happens the way it's looking like, I'm fascinated to know if it's going to go long enough for people to want to pit on inters again. Because if it does, we're in a hugely great position now. So Gasly is slowly closing up to Vettel, but Alonso annoyingly is keeping pace. So we might have Alonso for company, so that we might be looking at 8-9. Because Vettel can't keep up with the Mercedes, of course, and there's no real stopper in this train. Bottas is leading from Verstappen, and the fuel actually isn't really that much in hand either right now. We can probably speed this up a little bit. Russell's had an off.
Somebody spin out there. Here's the replay.
Who has just spun.
And yes.
And he is now behind us, as you can see us drive past. So we are now in 6th and 7th with Alonso 3.5 behind. He's dropped Zhou by, I don't know why I said his name slightly weirdly, Zhou by about a second since we last met. It was about 1.5 since I last showed him. Now it's 2.5. He's got Magnussen and Ricciardo vaguely for company. Russell, Leclerc, all about 2 seconds apiece behind. Gasly's getting a little closer. I mean, for now, we'll just obviously tell him not to fight him just in case he does catch him. But there's no point doing any dodgy overtake attempts in the rain. We might as well just go as we are and then see how things pan out at the other end. It was kind of unfortunate that Vettel got past Gasly in the first place. The rain is now actually only 4.6. We are on the come down, it seems already. Despite the fact they're saying it's going to get wetter again, we are on the come down apparently. So this is the point where we find out whether or not they go to intermediates and then one of the 3 soft tyres or not. And I'm still not fully certain at this stage of the race if you can do hards to the end, because I don't think you can. I don't want to go aggressive. I'll go aggressive on Vettel just because Gasly is catching just on the same levels. I'm happy to let Vettel push that little bit harder just because Gasly's gaining at the same levels. So if we push Vettel that little bit harder, hopefully that keeps the differential about a second. The second I see Gasly get close to making an overtake, I might just let Gasly pass. But for now, I'm just going to leave Gasly on don't try to overtake. But of course, he'll still put his car in a position to overtake before bailing. because obviously there's this gap to Alonso we need to pay attention to as well. Though I don't want that to come down too dramatically. And we're officially under 4mm again. So now we see whether or not people think, maybe intermediates for this stretch. And that actually did come down that's come down quite dramatically, actually. The prediction is still a fairly slow decline, but I'm not convinced it will be. Find the wet lines, Seb. Find the wet lines. Although it's getting wetter again briefly, so good job nobody did go on to intermediates. Okay, so we just had a warning that the rain has stopped. The track did get wetter. Alonso is now 3.1 behind. He's actually not closed dramatically on us, so our forecast was hilariously off. So glad we're improving that now. So we've got another mini peak, and that looks like the end of the rain, so probably a gradual drying out from here. It's good to know that that kind of level here, where it gets to the bottom, is 4mm. Also, this 100% confirms that whatever the graph says stays if you get past that point of the graph, because that definitely didn't happen where it rained a tiny bit and then dried out. That never happened. It just went up in the real world. So our prediction stuck once we got past it, and that's clearly wrong. So that's good to know for the future as well. Alonso's within 2 seconds. Thing is, I don't think he's holding Gasly up, is Vettel. My only concern is we might have to double stack trying to get out of this as well. Or I might just try Pierre maybe 1 lap earlier. We're actually dropping Alonso now, remarkably. And I think Gasly is actually annoyingly getting in range, so I'm going to swap them. Oh, what a beautiful place to do it. What a lovely place to do it. On the point where you're already going slowly-ish. No one appears to be making the jumps to Inters first, though. Leclerc's cleared Alonso behind, but they are about a net 4 seconds behind. Well, Alonso. We have to assume that Leclerc will get past eventually in this race. Nobody came in for Inters, so everyone's going to make the jump from these wet tyres to one of the dry tyres. Zhou remarkably went from the dry straight to the wet and is still only 11th. We must have got the jump. I think they double stacked Bottas and Zhou. I think that's what happened. But we are now lapping with Gasly, one of the Williams. I don't know which one that is. It's Latifi, who is 40 seconds off any other driver. Albon is also holding up. Well, there's Leclerc as well. That's a nice reference point. Leclerc's within a second, almost. But Albon's holding up Norris, Stroll, Ocon, and Mick. Ocon's not really in our fight, constructors-wise, but it's nice that he's holding up at least 1 McLaren, 1 AlphaTauri, and 1 Haas to effectively remove them from the fight today. We do still have to contend with Magnussen, Ricciardo, and Tsunoda. Our tyres are getting a little warm, but of course it is. It's a dry track. We're using wet tyres. Well, nearly dry track. So Vettel and Leclerc are going to be fighting momentarily. This track is getting close to being dry condition. Now, we saw last time, actually, as long as it's under 1mm, dry tyres aren't bad, but the intermediates still work when there's just some rainfall on the track. It doesn't matter if it's one, just some. The intermediates do still work, because we had that issue trying to track Norris. I actually mistook myself with Norris. I thought we were 10 seconds behind him before and caught up. It was just the fact that we were 10 seconds behind and pitted, and then he pitted, so he was 10 seconds behind. So we didn't actually catch Norris last time out. Last time it rained in Austria. So we do know the intermediates work in under 1mm rain, but over 0. However, wet tyres are a different beast, and everyone is on wet tyres, so it could be a case of double stacking, could be beneficial. I just realised that he's still on full 5-star when he's the second driver.
Drop back a bit. Really?
And he's actually just been taken by Leclerc, which isn't too bad because that now puts Leclerc on the back of Gasly instead. And we are very close to wanting to make the decision. If Leclerc pits now, we'll go in. We didn't. Oh, I was going to actually pit Vettel on that lap. We're going to see if anyone else comes in on this lap. That might have been actually the literal worst moment. I'm going to pit Leclerc on this lap and find out. Actually, no. I'm going to pit Vettel on this lap because he's better at holding his tyres. So if there is a viable option for hards, we're on lap 32 out of 70. We've got to get 48 laps. Nope, 38 laps. I can count. I think hards are viable. I feel like at least everyone else is going to try it. It's worth noting no one else has pitted yet. So anyone else in our fight hasn't pitted yet. Next across the line, I think, is actually Verstappen. Bottas is the first one to pit, which isn't too bad for us. How far behind is Vettel from Gasly? He's right behind. We're double stacking, I think, because everyone is now pitting. Everyone is now pitting.
Box, box.
It's going to be a double stack. I don't care. We need to make the most of this. This track is now drying. I worry this track is drying to a point where wet tyres are not going to be useful at all.
Copy.
Alonso's in. Sainz is in. Magnussen is in. Alonso will get past Vettel here. That is for sure. But I feel like to secure our race, we're going to need this. Although, we're having to hold for Alonso, I think. Yeah, so Alonso will get Vettel, but in order for our race to continue, I think we need this. This might have been a mistake to double. We'll see how much time people lose, but I mean, we come out of this race now 9 and 11, but there are people on wet tyres still out there. Leclerc, Russell, Zhou are all on. They came out on mediums. I don't think mediums will get to the end. I mean, Pierre's listed as aggressive on this point, so actually I now realise we probably need to bring down the tone a little bit. We can probably go aggressive for a little bit, but in fact, it's probably sensible to deploy for a lap as everyone else comes in and actually stay aggressive on both drivers. I know we're towards the end of this lap, but it's worth probably going aggressive for a little bit as Leclerc, Russell and Zhou now pit. I'm not convinced those medium runners are going to be okay at the end. We're not going to be far off DRS deployment either. So keeping Vettel with Alonso is going to be crucial here. There's Russell. How did Russell get past? He was on wet tyres. How the hell did the wet tyres do better laps than the medium? How has Russell got past? I mean, Gasly nearly got Leclerc back again. I mean, you can stop going aggressive on Leclerc. You're not going to get him again. Someone spun somewhere. It's one of the Red Bulls. It's Perez, I think. I kind of want Vettel to try and get Alonso, but for when this DRS train actually inevitably happens. But we are in a very good position here today. We've got 2 cars in the top 10. There is an 8-second gap to Magnussen, and DRS will be a thing within a couple of laps. We may have messed up with Vettel. We probably could have actually waited a lap for him. I thought the wet to dry differential was going to drop dramatically once it got under 1mm, but apparently it didn't because Russell made it work. Good to know. Good to know that using wet tyres on a basically completely dry track is essentially pointless. Now, Vettel we are deploying with here, and he is still not getting past Alonso, so we'll just stop him deploying at this stage. We'll keep him on aggressive mode. Gasly's having a go at Leclerc. I mean, go on, Pierre. Completely irrelevant. He will get you by the end of the race no matter what. He's not even on deploy. He's just on attack. But yeah, he's not going to reach the end of this race on attack. And Vettel did get Alonso whilst not even on deploy. Magnussen's now 11 seconds behind. Unless it's a dodgy sector difference. How did Magnussen lose 3 seconds in 1 lap? Or 2 in a bit at least. Oh, hang on. Pierre Gasly lost Leclerc's DRS. When it actually becomes a thing. When's DRS happening? How is he staying in touch with Leclerc and then now just suddenly dropped him? But Magnussen is losing time second by second here. Oh, DRS is already active. That's why Gasly was holding on. DRS was already active, and that's why Magnussen is losing so much time. Vettel got past Russell on that one. I mean, these three are going to... We didn't see it, but these three are going to keep swapping over, I think. Double DRS zone. The person in the lead is going to suffer massively, but it's good to know that we've got the fight in us. We do have double points opportunity today. Well, Gasly's not getting back in range, so we might as well just preserve his tyres because he's less good at that. And we'll just make sure Sebastian comes down a stage as well. Because this is just going to be a 3-way fight. We might as well just save these tyres. This is just going to be a fight between Vettel, Russell, Alonso for the remainder of this race. They'll keep swapping positions, and provided we can keep the tyres good enough, keep a modicum of ERS, that's going to be a problem though.
You are joking.
When Vettel's at the front of this queue, it's going to be a problem because that confused me. Someone's gone wide again. It's not Leclerc though, so it's Stroll. Yeah, that's a problem because Russell just powered away and Alonso stayed behind, so it's actually not going to be a 3-way fight. It's just going to be a fight between Vettel and Alonso, I think, because Russell broke Alonso's DRS in that process.
That's a good overtake from
Yeah, Vettel being ahead of that queue really benefited Russell. So this might end up being a 2-way between Alonso and Vettel and a 2-way between Gasly and Russell eventually. I'm kind of hoping that Vettel stays in DRS range here as well, because I can't go aggressive on these tyres to the end. I might be able to actually, but this was a prediction with 4-star pushing on these hard tyres. So if we can keep at 4 stars at the very least. Say Alonso is just running away now, but Vettel does have 2 doses of DRS. If Gasly can hold on, like 5-star pushing for Gasly would see him exactly at 30%, which is what this bar is. And in fact, double DRS actually gets Vettel ahead of Alonso for a lap, so I think while he's ahead, we just run him on standard. Alonso ran wide there just as he actually broke 1 second. So that actually allows us to just be a little bit more careful with Vettel. Russell's taking Gasly. In fact, it wasn't even difficult. I could have maybe tried to fight and stay in that a little bit more. Right, so I'm conscious of the fact that Verstappen is just coming through the pack at this point. He's going to be catching Alonso soon. So Noda's up to 11th. I don't know what's happened here with Magnussen, Zhou and Tsunoda, but Tsunoda's only 3 and a bit seconds behind Vettel now. Russell did drop Gasly once he got past, unfortunately, so it's 7 seconds there, but it's 7 seconds back to Alonso. We're pushing hard on Vettel's tyres right now just because we're kind of hoping when Verstappen catches him, that will push him back. Verstappen, let's not forget, started at the back of this race. It's happened again. Apparently it's not that far-fetched, even in a game. Right, so Verstappen's catching Alonso now. We try and go all out, even on fuel at this point. Unfortunately, it's taken basically almost 1 full lap. 2 full laps, I think, actually, for Vettel to get for Verstappen to catch Alonso after passing Vettel. And Vettel was only 0.9 behind Alonso when Verstappen lapped Vettel, and now he's 3 seconds behind, and he's passed Alonso. That is not good news. There's no way we break 3 seconds. We just stay aggressive on this, bring the fuel back down. I don't think we ever go slow now. I think we can get away with not going slow to the end because there's a little bit of wiggle room at the end of these hard tyres. But I don't think we need to go all the way down. Gasly's okay to stay on 3 because he's not really got anyone to fight at this point. But this will be 5 points. It's not going to get us past McLaren, but it's going to be 5 points. Unless one of the top 7 decide to maybe go off the track quite hard. I don't know. The other thing we need to pay attention to is how the medium tyres are doing. The medium tyres are holding on better than I thought they would. Someone has one wide. Unfortunately, it's not anyone ahead of us. It's Stroll again. He's in 19th. How the turntables there. What was he, 7th at the end of last race? Or Austria, whichever one it was. I think we're casually just popping in personal best as well with Gasly. Gasly's going faster than Alonso. That might have included his lapping. Yeah, Vettel's not able to close. Tsunoda is annoyingly getting somewhat closer, and I don't really know why. But we'll try and bank some fuel with Vettel. Tsunoda's putting in personal bests, and he's gaining 3/10 the lap. There are 18 laps remaining, and he's only 3 seconds behind. We are going to have to just condition that gap. Alonso's doing 3/10 faster than Gasly as well. Russell's a full second faster than Gasly, so I can see why that didn't take long. I am also marginally aware of the fact that Verstappen will catch Gasly by the end as well. But if we're tactical with Gasly, we can maybe hold on to Verstappen as long as possible. His tyres are 10% worse. 18 laps, and we worked it out to be about 2% a lap on those mediums. I mean, they're going to be hitting 30%. Our tyres could come into play towards the end. I don't think they're going to come into play on Russell, but people like Alonso, Tsunoda, the ones behind us, they might come into play towards the end. So the fact that Tsunoda's catching now might not be of huge problematicness, and Alonso might get retaken by Vettel by the end if those tyres do go off for them. Although as we saw, I think it was Canada, it kind of felt like that the AI tyres don't actually drop off until they hit 30%, rather than the sort of the 40 to 30% window that it seems to happen to us. But oh well. We'll just manage the gap to Tsunoda. We'll try and manage the gap to Alonso and Verstappen when he arrives soon. The fuel's in a nice position as well. We can probably push with the fuel towards the end. That was possibly one of the worst places to actually do that, because now he's lost all the momentum on the straight. In fact, he did lose about a full second there, it almost looked like. But attack now with Gasly's tyres. In the vain hope he can stay within a second. No, he hasn't. I mean, there's no way in hell he's even within a second of Verstappen here. Gasly has a bit more ERS than Vettel does. There's no way Gasly's in 1 second of Verstappen here. I was really hoping to get Verstappen's toe the same way he gave, what was it, Norris and Tsunoda in Austria, which ruined our race. Yeah, not happening. Not happening here. Just the one double DRS zone and that's it. Not the 3 separate DRS zones that provided so much benefit to lapped cars in Austria. Tsunoda slowly closing. He's just trying to make sure Vettel stays ahead on his tyres. It's going to be marginal if he goes 5 push at any point. I do realise he's on Dauphin teammate, but I don't think that's going to factor in at this point. But just in case that, for some reason, is slowing him down. You never know in this game. I kind of forgot that Gasly was pushing on fuel. I think both cars are fine to go on 4 push. It's only 15 laps for Alonso, and he's only doing... Well, he's doing the same when Gasly was doing a 5 push. If Gasly did a 125 there, which has put this gap back to 7 seconds. I'm sorry, what? Tsunoda remains 3/10 faster than Vettel, though. Schumacher has crashed. I think it's just a yellow flag, though, it seems. Turn 12 is towards the end. It's just where actually Vettel is driving. So watching this, he's been lapped by Mercedes, I think, and gone straight on. And well, it looks like I had a fairly comfortable crash there. Probably. Hard to tell. But yeah, didn't warrant any form of safety car. A safety car would actually have been bad for us in this race, so thank God for that.
on fuel.
We sort of delayed Tsunoda for a couple of laps there as well, so that gap's back up to 2.8. Even on 4 push, Alonso's doing the same pace as Gasly now, somehow. I don't know what's going on with Tsunoda. He's found so much pace in Hungary full stop. I can't explain him, but, you know, the last couple of laps, Vettel's been going faster because we've been pushing him a little bit. Someone's locked up there. It's not Tsunoda, though. It might have been Stroll again. No, it's Hamilton. Hamilton crashed. Hamilton's in the pits. What's Hamilton? Same section. So it was Mick Schumacher, who might have been actually the one between. Hamilton, I don't know which Mercedes it was that was lapping Mick Schumacher last lap, but if it was Hamilton, that's quite funny. No, I think it was Russell that was in the Mick Schumacher one, just because I could see a Williams not too much further back from him, and they were in the shot as well. But Hamilton's in the pits. I think Hamilton had well enough in hand to still be ahead of us. So whilst I got momentarily excited that we might gain a place from that, nope. The only thing we can hope for with Hamilton is if he's taken damage in that. And Alonso is actually now lapping 3/10 faster than Gasly again. We'll see what Vettel does on this lap in comparison. Oh, actually, I do spy, I guess it's Perez. That's Tsunoda. Perez is getting Tsunoda soon. So we'll just try and see where he gets Tsunoda. And then as soon as he takes Tsunoda, what's the differential between us and Tsunoda now? 2.6-ish. 2.5, 2.6. We'll just stay on board with Perez. And he's actually that's not the best place, actually, for us.
Pushing hard now.
I don't think Tsunoda's lost too much time there. But we'll just push whilst that's happened, in the vain hope that he'll never catch us. He will do. So we've got a little bit on the fuel still, but we'll just hold off on the fuel, I think. But yeah, Tsunoda now down to 3.6 behind, but that's because he's been lapped. 2 laps later, Perez is close to Vettel's tail. We'll push the gap to 4 seconds. In the meantime, I think we might actually get past him basically the same place. I thought he might do it there, but he's actually not that close. We might actually get passed by Perez in a much better place. Only 8 laps remain, because Verstappen's ahead of us, so only 8 laps remain. Or 8 and a bit. I think Perez is going to get us through the S's, or maybe on the straight down to 12. Yeah, it's going to be the straight down to 12 for this, which is a good place, really. The gap to Tsunoda, Oh no, that was not a good place. Tsunoda effectively gained 3/10 to that. Actually, more than 3/10 because we pushed that gap out. Tsunoda effectively gained a net 7/10 from that lapping. But we might be in a position that we can push for the remainder. All their tyres are heading towards 40% as well. So if their times do drop off after 40%, we're in a good spot. Sorry, overtake failed. He's still got Perez in front of him. We might have the Perez tow. We might finally benefit from a lapping tow. He actually pulled the gap out on Tsunoda dramatically. How many laps till Alonso? Just try and get in the 1 second this time, Vettel, because I'm not fully certain you are. Well, here it's not going to matter too much, but he's got DRS again. Perez has saved Vettel 100% there. I mean, we could have probably managed the gap to Tsunoda. There's only 8 laps left, and we probably have the tyres in hand. But whilst we're in the DRS, we can just push the tyres down a bit. Ironically, this will count as a failed overtake every time, which is quite funny. But 7 laps remain, including the one we're on. The gap to Alonso is only 3 seconds. Someone's come off. It's not Alonso. That's the only one that matters.
I think there's been a lockup.
It's Schumacher again. So we'll attack the tyres through this last sector just to make sure we stay within the 1 second. We'll just keep flipping off attacking and not attacking during this last sector to make sure we stay in range. We'll hope we can, because we're now within 3.2 of Alonso. And don't forget he's got to lap him as well, which will push him back into us.
7 laps to go.
Saying 7 laps to go, there's clearly only 6 because we've been lapped. I think if anything, actually, we can go on standard through this section. Tactical tiring. We're going to hit probably about 35% by the end of this. Obviously having a little look there. Go back to aggressive through this section so we don't lose him at all. And there is Alonso, 1.9 seconds ahead. On tyres that probably are going off soon. And now we go on to attack just to make sure we stay... Oh no, aggressive's probably okay for now. Through the chicane at least. Now we go attack. We should be okay on fuel, maybe. Alonso's tyres are officially under 40%. Actually, we'll be able to judge whether Alonso's tyres have gone off by the lap time versus Gasly. They've gone off slightly because he's now matching Gasly, who's going 3/10 faster. Vettel's putting in 119 seconds. And, Alonso, I'm not sure that's legal. Alonso, I'm not sure that's illegal, Fernando. I mean, we're getting a whiff of what Lewis Hamilton had to deal with here, but hello. Hello, Alonso. Maybe harvest through this part.
Okay, copy.
Don't try and make a move before the DRS line, Vettel. I'm going to keep him on attack on the tyres just because, but... Or maybe not. We'll just harvest a little bit through this sector. get back on push before the end of the lap, just to make sure we stay within. Make sure we pop back to neutral. Make sure we stay within the 1 second of Alonso. We're only 5/10 off, but just make sure we've got everything in hand here. Yes, we can see that, Sebastian. I think he's fully out, and that's a safety car, hilariously. Bottas is pitting. It gives AlphaTauri a point, which is what we didn't want, but I'm not fully certain we'll get back underway again. I mean, do we pit for softs? I mean, Bottas has come in. Magnussen's locked up whilst we're waiting for this. I mean, who's the... Verstappen's not too far ahead of us, actually. And he did actually just lap Russell before. Actually, this could be good for us versus Russell. Russell didn't pit. We stay out. Oh, I kind of want to know if Alonso's pitting or not, but we're not going to find out. Alonso didn't pit. We're okay. Yeah, we've easily called the queue just because. Now, it's going to be a bit of carnage on the restart here, because there will be a restart, but we can take 7th if we're lucky. I think we will have lap 70 of 70, because there are 2 cars ahead of us, which are, I think, Albon and Stroll, judging by the pairing here. Importantly, who's behind us directly? Perez. So Perez is going to want to try and lap us. We're going to want to try and lap these 2. I'm going to do something tactical here, and I'm going to turn on avoid curbs, because that makes things harder for the person behind to try and lap. Because obviously, in order to move out of the way, you go towards the curb normally. I mean, Bottas and Hamilton are in very prime places right now. I don't know if Bottas lost places when he pitted there, but actually, I'm not fully certain we are, because this is lap 69, and I don't think the safety car's coming in. No one had crashed on that corner, I don't think, up to that point. No, yeah, we're doing the last lap behind the safety car. This is how it ends. That's a shame. I thought we might have one clean run. Well, it's still good points for Gasly. I am so annoyed. I mean, safety car's going to be in. Is there literally any chance? I mean, if there's like a weird glitch where we get to race again before this starts? Okay, we're good. What a hilarious restart. I mean, at least the race is over quickly. We don't have to wait for anyone. Still, it's our best result of the season.
Well, this weekend, Pierre Gasly flew us to the stars. Today, Aston Martin demonstrated that they can go very far indeed.
Next time, the teams will be adding another year to the legend of Spa-Francorchamps. Anything can happen at the Belgian Grand Prix.
Oh, Seb, you have gifted AlphaTauri a point there, but thankfully McLaren got diddly squat and we got 4. Max Verstappen went from last to first. I'd forgotten which way around Leclerc and Max were at the back of the grid. Max literally went from last to first. Vettel the only retirement as a result of that. But I'll tell you what though, it was rather promising. It was rather promising pace overall in the race, just full stop. Yuki Tsunoda aside, who was inexplicably 3/10 faster than Seb anyway, somehow. But Pierre was only 3/10 slower a lap than Alonso on what are effectively less competitive tyres, the hards to the mediums. So I think there's a certain amount of race pace. And if I remember to put in the good engine in qualifying, we might be better off as well going forward. We've also taken our engine penalties relatively early. The gearboxes are okay for at least a few races. We might have to take a new gearbox in one of the races, but beyond that, we might be okay. So we took our penalties earlier, so we will benefit obviously from that going forward. Pierre gets another 4 points. His first 4 points in Aston Martin colours. He had 20 in under AlphaTauri. You can see why we wanted him. Tsunoda gets a point and actually goes ahead of Sebastian Vettel as a result, somewhat ironically. But Aston Martin gained 4 and closed the gap on McLaren. That gap is now only 7 points. I mean, AlphaTauri and Haas are way ahead. Quite frankly, we just try to nab 8th. And I'd imagine Pierre Gasly gets a stonking amount of points there. He does. 882. And Seb had a decent race, all things considered, but still only gets a disappointing performance overall just because he finished 20th. 10 overtakes from Seb and 14 successful defends. Whereas Pierre only had 6 successful overtakes and only 2 successful defends. He didn't really have to defend from anyone, did Pierre, in the end. Of course, Pierre gets his bonus, but we get a reasonable amount of money nonetheless. Oh, the board review just comes in right now. I thought there might be a day. Board confidence is high, so they are giving me 1.5 million more, despite being behind target. Sure, okay. We have survived for another day, it seems. I'm intrigued to know what the actual response is to that one, well, in regards to satisfied, etc. For that particular race is delighted is what it goes to. There's happy and there's delighted. So points, obviously, delighted. But now we have a full month. We'll deal with that next time. Oh, the front wing doesn't actually come in until on the day of qualifying for the Dutch Grand Prix. We'll have it for Monza, thankfully. The highest of the high-speed tracks in this section. Spa's quite a fast track too in terms of high speed, but I think these are going to be our last pair of upgrades probably for the entire remainder of the season. So we'll have that on the floor, we'll have that front wing in. and we'll have that front wing in for 7 races full stop. We'll have the underfloor in for 6 races full stop, and then we'll just turn our attention fully to maybe next year's car. Just feels like by the time we get that front wing done, the next piece, no matter what it is, won't come in until probably Japan. So it'll only be good for 4 races. So it's probably worthwhile just focusing on next year's car, which means it could be sensible to try and focus on this upgrade, because we're not going to have to develop any parts. We're going to have at least 1 full race between now and the next part coming in. We're on 19 million now. We're not going to be sacking or firing anyone. I think we do the design center upgrade now. It brings us down to 7.5 million, but we will have a full race in between now and then. And we bring that up to 3 ongoing projects at any given time, which will be crucial, especially with that research for next year. So, points. The most points of any race so far. Spa next time out. I do not know what the crashing levels are like at Spa. I've heard Zandvoort has been pretty tasty, but there was a recent patch that kind of brought things back in again a little bit from what I heard. So, yes, the magic of Spa next. I'll see for that. If you enjoyed this race as much as I did, Seb, cost us a point, but still, overall, he did get us 2 earlier in the year. Yes, if you enjoyed this race, though, do give it a like, comment, subscribe all below. Help the algorithm out, all that jazz. YouTube's a fickle beast. Until next time, ta-ra.